Hello, my name is Sam Watts, Director of Safety and Loss Control for 10-4 Truck Insurance. And I want to talk briefly today about the 7 basic categories, and particularly the unsafe driving category. Now, it seems pretty obvious what would be in the unsafe driving category. And if you're thinking, well, probably unsafe driving behaviors, correct, okay? That's what's in there. But this is a very important basic category that everyone really needs to be paying attention to, because it's probably the one that I see the most violations. It's between this and vehicle maintenance as to the most violations that a trucking company can pick up. So the biggest one, obviously, in unsafe driving is going to be speeding. Sometimes drivers get a lead foot. Sometimes they're going down a hill too fast, and picking up that momentum and just can't stop, and speeding happens. So speeding is the number one. Another big one that is kind of on the rise is mobile devices, okay? Using a cell phone, like having it up to your ear while driving a CMV. Can't do that, okay? That's why you see a lot of the drivers with the headsets on, the Bluetooth headsets, because you can't have a phone up to your ear. Those are kind of the 2 big ones, but there are other ones too that fall into the unsafe driving category. Being in the wrong lane is a big one that I see a lot of times. A lot of times trucks aren't supposed to be in the left lane or right lane, depending on the area they're in, and you got to really pay attention to those signs, because if you're in the wrong lane, you will get a ticket for unsafe driving. And then just the other basic driving rules, like following too close, sometimes not using your turn signal, and then even not wearing a seatbelt. All of that falls into the unsafe driving categories. Now, if you get a lot of unsafe driving violations, that means your CSA score is going to go up in the unsafe category. And if you get above the threshold, that means then the FMCSA might want to come in and kind of take a look at what's going on and why you're having a lot of issues with unsafe driving. One of the hardest parts about unsafe driving and correcting the violations is that you have to get to the behavior of the driver. A lot of this is behavioral. A lot of these drivers just have a lead foot. A lot of them, might not use a turn signal that much. And so it's a behavioral thing that you have to correct. So one of the big things that you can do to help mitigate some of these violations when it comes to unsafe driving is to look at all the data that's coming in. We have so much data now. Through the telematics, through the ELD systems, we can see how fast they're going. We can see if they're wearing a seatbelt. We can see where the driver's at. We can see in real time what the weather. I mean, it's unbelievable what we can see now. Use that data, okay? Use it and start monitoring it. And once you start monitoring it, you're going to start seeing names creep to the top of, repeat offenders. One thing I always looked at when I was watching fleets was the speed reports, okay? Who is my habitual speeders? And those are the guys and then that you can start talking to. And that leads into the second piece of ways you can help curb some of the violations with unsafe driving is implementing a good driver coaching program. Okay, if you start seeing drivers creeping up, getting a lot of speeding, not even violations, but just showing up on the speed report, that data then you could take and go to that driver and say, look, you're showing up a ton on this driving or on the speeding report. You need to make sure you watch your speed, okay? Because if you don't, a DOT officer will, okay? So implement a good driver coaching program. And that doesn't mean that you only talk to the drivers when they do something wrong. That means you celebrate them when they're doing something right too. If you have a driver that is high on the speed report and after 2-3 months you see that they're not even on anymore or they're significantly less, make sure you call them up and say, hey, good job, all right? You're doing exactly what we need you to do, and you're slowing down, and that's going to save you in the long run, because now you're not going to be in danger of getting violations, which in turn will save the company from not getting violations and keeping the CSA scores down, okay? Unsafe driving is a very easy category to get over the threshold in, just because, like I said, it's a lot of behavioral stuff. And if no one's watching driver behavior out there, those numbers are going to start creeping up, and pretty soon you're going to be over the threshold, and you might have FMCSA come knocking. So in order to keep your scores under the threshold, make sure that you are monitoring the driver behavior out there, and if something is going wrong, make sure that you are talking to those drivers and helping them understand the importance of driving safe.